Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Lindy Gardner, and I'm the Program Director at WWIN. If you're new here, WWIN is a nonprofit organization that empowers women in Washington State to achieve economic stability through higher education and living wage careers. So our STAR Scholarship Program supports nearly 200 women with their education each year. And this is a part of our Activate You Women's Empowerment Conference series, where we offer free monthly workshops, typically on the second Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. So join us in July for one on learning perfectionism and focusing on excellence. As you can see, this meeting will be recorded. So if you are registered, you will receive a follow-up email tomorrow with the link, and then it will be posted on our website later as well for you to view at your convenience. And with that, I will turn it over to our incredible workshop leader, Jenn Spicer from Delightful Communications.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lindy, so much for having us having me here and Delightful, if it's just me today, to give this workshop. Don't worry, Sophia, I will give you lots of opportunities to even just put things in the chat. I've got it up on one of my screens. So when you see me looking over there, it's because I'm looking and I'll watch for your chat, because we do definitely encourage participation. It looks like we're going to have a little smaller, more intimate group this week, which is fine. I was telling Lindy, I'm actually kind of excited because normally I've got big groups and nobody wants to talk. Smaller groups, I usually get better participation. So don't worry, we'll make it totally non-scary, but absolutely please do get involved, put things in the chat, and at appropriate times, if you're able, there will be opportunities to speak to, and if your microphone lets you. So as I mentioned, I am Jenn Spicer. I am the Personal Branding Program Manager here at Delightful. And this is what I do pretty much all day. I help other executives, entrepreneurs, leaders, small business owners promote their business or elevate their career or just grow in the path that they actually want to grow in by utilizing a personal brand and cleaning up their social profiles, making sure that everything is kind of aligned. So we're going to kind of talk you through those steps that we take today. There we go. All right, here's what we're going to go over today. Basically the same steps that we would take at Delightful if we were working with clients on their personal brand. We're going to talk about what it is, why it's important in the first place. And then we're going to look at actually identifying those goals. Why do you want to work on your personal brand? Like you specifically, what is your goal? What are you looking to get out of this? Both this experience and long-term, what do you want to achieve? We're going to help you craft your branding statement, which is just a short sentence or two that's simple but effective in communicating your value. And we're going to look at how do you actually effectively implement and grow your personal brand. So primarily through LinkedIn, but also other digital and online strategies. So first, what is it? Well, Jeff Bezos says it's what people say about you after you leave the room. And in a way, he's right. It is about outward perception. But we take it a step further and define it as the practice of defining your professional purpose and being able to articulate your experience and value to your target audience through digital media and in person. In other words, it's about being purposeful in how you present yourself so that the value that you bring is easily seen. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually one of my favorite little exercises. I want you to pull out your phone or open up another browser. Whatever works for you. I want you to open it up private or in incognito, again, if possible. That just will help us ignore any cookies. So no bias in any of your searches because it's just kind of a fresh slate. And I want you to do a search for your name. And I want you to think about that search from the point of view of somebody who needs you or your services or your skills, but doesn't actually actively know you. So if they just know a name and what they need, what are they finding out about you? Are they finding accurate information? Can they find you at all? One of my favorite times, and put in the chat some of the fun things that you might find if you find anything fun, because that's always fun to see. One of my favorites was somebody was very sad to discover that on the front page of their results, they had passed away. They found an obituary for their name, and that showed up before anything about them currently. If you search for me and my name, I compete very strongly with a doctor in the Midwest. but it's really, really obvious which one of us each line item kind of is for, because we're both really consistent in making sure that, you know, our titles are on our profiles, our pictures are updated on our profiles, that sort of a thing. So I want you to take just a minute, do this little search for you. It's a fun thing to do. So, and this is something that you can do yourself every once in a while. Again, that goal is to just see what is that initial, you know, impulsive reaction of somebody who doesn't know you. So hopefully you guys are having a good time with that. Let me know if you guys find anything cool. You can, this is a good point too, if you want to raise your hand and say like, hey, I discovered this. Go ahead and either shout it out or put it in the comments. All right. Yeah?
Discovered I don't exist.
Ellen, you don't exist? How sad.
Also, when your name is Sarah Klein and it's real generic, there are a lot of you.
Yes. And that's where we're going to talk about something really important later called keywords, because I have this with a lot of my clients too that have more, you know, John Smith type names where they're just really common. And there's no way that you're going to, you know, dominate the front page of results for your name. But if you add in a keyword that is very specific to what you're doing, you know, even if it's just IT or something like that. For me, it's like personal branding, then you're easily found. So that's where you have to start thinking a little bit more creatively to like help people find you through the sea of other Sarahs. So good result. Anybody else find anything interesting? Looks like maybe no. That's, Tide Pool Magazine and Peninsula College Art Exhibition Awards. Are those accurate? Was that a good thing, Sophia? Was that something that you actually did, or was it somebody else with your name? Because the goal would be for those types of things. See, that's awesome. That's excellent. And that's really great that that's, you know, actually able to be found when people search for your name. Awesome, Lindy. Glad to see that. Oh, there you go, Sarah. Yep. That's the way to do it. All right. So this is the type of exercise that you can do yourself every once in a while. And it's just a kind of quick impulse, kind of gut check to see, is what I'm doing working? Is it, you know, over time, am I becoming easier to find? Is the accuracy improving of the things that are popping up? You know, you don't want really old, inaccurate things popping up. You want it to be fresh and new, accurate with your pictures, making sure that it's really obvious what you do. So good job, people there. And like this says, the goal is just to see what kind of an impression am I making? Are you, you know, welcoming and approachable, like the picture on the right of, you know, the Christmas store all lit up and really obvious to see just by looking in, you know, what's for sale and people want to go there? Or are you boarded up and a little cold and really hard to tell what you do? And the ultimate goal is to be discoverable, shareable, and memorable. You want to be able to be found. You want to provide something worthy of being shared with others. And you want to be memorable. You want to be the person that someone thinks of when they need the skills and experience that you have. And, you know, this is why we do a lot of work with on personal branding with companies too, because it can be a very good benefit for them as well. So, you know, people are noticing that, and, you know, we've got the stats to back it up, that people trust people, not brand messaging. So you always want everything to be authentic, but if you can organically and authentically grow, you know, brand ambassadors within your company, people that are excited to share the cool stuff that they're working on and how great it is to work there, it's a win-win for everybody. So it's definitely worth considering. And I love this, this diagram. This was a snapshot of the top sites and platforms where you may or may not be found by others. So, you know, it's not just LinkedIn and Twitter. You are everywhere. I have no doubt that this is probably immediately out of date because new platforms are created so quickly, but still a really good representation of how interwoven technology is with our lives. We are everywhere. And, you know, if you don't take control of your personal brand about what's being, you know, shown, then it's still out there. It's just maybe not reflecting what you want it to reflect. Making sure that it's updated. And while it can be scary to put yourself out there, especially if you're not used to posting and engaging regularly online, I want you to think about it from a different point of view. Not that you're promoting yourself. That's not the goal. You're sharing your expertise with others and lifting others up. It's not necessarily about you. It's about what you can do for others and, you know, demonstrating that in a really valuable way. All right, now we're going to talk a bit about how to go about developing your brand. And I'm going to cross my fingers that this works. I'm going to share a worksheet in the chat. Tell me, can everybody reach that okay? All right, I uploaded a worksheet. Hopefully it is visible to you. If it's not, you can follow along with this pretty well. My apologies, my notes page went away, so I need to find where I was. All right. I am so sorry. Give me 2 seconds. It didn't like me dropping that in the chat, and it took away my ability to forward. So I am going to pop into the chat. The other handout I was going to pass out later, just so that I can get that going. And then I'm going to stop and restart this. And then there was one more link that you'll need later. That is not a link. Okay. Ignore that, but I'm going to send that maybe out to you guys later. Give me 2 seconds to stop sharing. See, we're all having a little technical difficulties today. All right, and we're back in. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to access that in the chat, because now we're going to actually go through this first exercise. We're going to talk about how to go about developing your brand. The first step is to create an actual plan about an idea about what your goals are. These are going to change over the course of your life, but having an idea about what you want to accomplish right now will give you direction and purpose, so you're not just posting to post. So I want you to look at that first exercise and start thinking about this. You know, what do you want? Is it career advancement? Do you want to grow your business? You're all here for one reason or another. So think about, you know, what those reasons are. What are you looking to have happen? It's also completely normal to have multiple goals. So for example, for me, my goals are to be known for my expertise, attract new potential clients, and to provide guidance and insight to current or former clients. That's what I want to do with my social media. So think about that, and I'm going to give you just a minute to kind of fill in that answer. Oh, I'm sorry that wasn't working for you guys. Is anybody else having issues accessing that folder? If not, you can honestly open up a Word document and it'll work just fine.
So I found that it, when I downloaded it, it downloaded it as generic, but if I told the computer to actually open it as a Word doc, then it opened it just fine. So.
Okay, thank you for that insight, Sarah. That is very helpful. You never know. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So anyways, again, if it doesn't work for you, go ahead and just open up a Word doc and follow along with that. It should work. Okay. All right, so hopefully you guys have some goals written down, because now the next thing that we're going to do is actually take it that next step. Now that you know your goal, who do you need to actually reach in order to achieve that goal? So, you know, using myself as an example, again, knowing my goals, my audience is going to be industry leaders and professionals who are looking to grow their personal brands so that they can advance their own careers or their businesses. So it sounds like a really simple, obvious step, but literally writing down these things about what you want, both short-term, long-term, and who you need to reach in order to reach that goal is going to give you focus on what you're posting, how you're posting it, and it's going to really help solidify the value that you bring to those people. They're going to understand a lot better because you're speaking directly to them. So again, hopefully that was a good, valuable exercise. Again, take time to think through. Yes, very much like positive affirmation, Sophia. It is really, really important. And a lot of these steps that we take are very similar to what we would do for a business brand. You know, there's a reason why we do audience identification, because if you don't know who you're talking to, or if you're talking way too broadly, it makes it really hard to actually reach the specific people that you need to reach. All right, now that we've identified goals and relevant audiences, we're going to take it the next step and we're going to craft a purpose statement that communicates the value that you bring to those audiences. And a good purpose statement should answer these questions. So I'm going to use myself as an example again. This is my purpose statement. This is not something that I wrote in 5 minutes, so feel free. Just know you guys are going to take a little bit of time to work on this. And this is, again, also going to change over the course of your career. So for me, I believe that everyone should feel happiness and fulfillment in their career. I use my deep understanding of my clients' wants, needs, and pain points to help them communicate their story and value while giving them the tools and guidance they need to reach their personal and professional goals. So in here, I've identified my who I do it for. Now, I'm keeping this vague. I'm saying my clients because I work with a very wide range of clients. We're actually narrowing it down more just because our business itself is very focused on B2B tech. So we're focusing more on tech executives now. But for the last couple of years that I've been running this program, I've worked with a very wide range. I've worked with restaurateurs, I've worked with oceanographers, I've worked with, executives, CEOs, I've worked with everybody. So I didn't want to alienate anybody by narrowing that down, but I should probably narrow that down to tech executives now, but I still do these workshops for all of you guys. So that's still not quite relevant, right? It's okay to do it, to keep it a little bit vague if that's still accurate. My next thing is, this is what I do. This is what I give them. I give them tools and guidance they need. Now, again, this is super broad, but if you think about this in context for where we use this purpose statement, for us, we primarily use it as like the opening line or two on a LinkedIn bio. And then we're going to go into more depth in the rest of the, a couple more paragraphs. We're going to expand on this. So this is, think of it as the pyramid. This is the absolute tippy top, the briefest we can make it and still keep it accurate and impactful for the people that you need to reach. And you're going to tell more about how you do these things later. That's okay. Here I talk about the value that's specific to what I do. This is the specific, my background and experience helps me understand clients' wants, needs, and pain points better than somebody else who, might not have my background experiences. For me, it's because I've got a heavy background in sales and theater, both of which make me really good at working with people, understanding their wants, their needs, and again, those pain points. But it helps me work really tightly with people and understanding it. And then I've got a background in admin as well. And that's more on the back end, on the project management side and the program management side. That helps me really excel there. But it's looking at all of those backgrounds and those experiences woven together. How does that make me different and really, good at what I do? And then this is my why. This is why I get out of bed beyond the paycheck, because we should all get out of bed for more than just the paycheck. That's the goal, right? Is because I do believe that everyone should feel happiness and fulfillment in their career. So this is what I try and give to people, is the ability to do that for themselves. And then the last thing that we do with the purpose statement is we remove all of the buzzwords. So every few years, LinkedIn releases a list of the 10 most overused buzzwords. This was the list for 2018, which was the last time that they published it. But basically, buzzwords are adjectives that are so frequently overused that they become essentially nearly meaningless. You may be passionate and creative, which I believe was directly pulled from my resume until I saw this list. But if 9 out of 10 other people are too, you're not going to stand out. So you're going to want to differentiate yourself by others by just picking another word. It could just be another synonym. That's fine. But I would urge you to think deeper about that question. So for example, if you're passionate about what you do, how does the fact that you're passionate come out in your work? How does that actually make a difference for the person that you're working with or the company that you're working with? And I should point out that these are different from keywords. We talked about keywords very briefly in the very beginning. We love keywords. They make it easier for you to be found. So again, a keyword is something that someone might search in order to find you. So for example, good keywords for me would be personal branding, leadership branding, social media strategy, program management, that sort of a thing. All right, and one thing I do talk about with every personal branding client I work with is that idea of having a North Star. What do you need to do in order to feel fulfilled when you're retired and looking back over your career or your life? When you're on the beach, thinking back, what's going to put a smile on your face? We don't know for sure now, but just having an idea and of what you need to accomplish to feel happy will really help keep you on the right path for that. And that might change over the course of your career. It might not be work related, and that's totally fine. But having an idea of what you need to accomplish or want to feel, happy and fulfilled, that can actually help guide you to getting there. Again, like the positive affirmations, it's really beneficial. All right, so now here is the one that we're going to take a few minutes with, is actually giving you guys time to work on your personal branding statement. So this is exercise 2. I want you to think about these questions. Don't try and form it into 1 or 2 sentences like I did. I want you to start off with just answering each of these as separate elements. So you should have, these 4 questions, you should have 4 different answers. And I want you to try and get those as short and to the point as possible. And then I want you to take all of those together and merge it together into 1 or 2 sentences. So it's important to answer them separately because that will help guide you for how you can actually make it flow together and make sense in that way. So we're going to give you guys about 10 minutes, I think, to do this one. And yep, we're on track. That's awesome. So go ahead and we're going to have a little bit of quiet work time. I want you to work on answering these questions. I'm going to give you 5 minutes of quiet work time. And then for the, actually, no, it's okay. If you guys have questions during it, do go ahead and chime in, ask those questions either in chat or verbally. And again, this is something that hopefully you guys are going to spend more than 10 minutes on a little bit later, to finish up and wrap up. But I want to give you guys a chance to kind of get this started. So again, I'm going to kind of just sit here and stop talking. And you guys let me know if you have any questions about this. So you've still got a few minutes left, but I wanted to point out that at the top of page 2, this is particularly if you're struggling with answering the what value question. On the top of page 2, there's a section for you to write out your story. This is not an exercise that we're going to do together. This is just for you to think about this question from kind of a different point of view. So what I would recommend is that you think about, you may find it useful to reflect on your background and your career up to this point and identifying what skills you use regularly in those roles that you still use in your current role. And that may help guide you to some of your strengths, what you love doing and you find fulfilling, and what makes you unique. So again, this is, like for me, where I had kind of an unconventional path to marketing by going through sales and admin and theater, but I feel like those have made me stronger, and here's why. So it's not a, hey, she's been job hopping, it's a, hey, she's been picking up skills and learning a lot of really unconventional new things that she can bring to this role. That's how you want to, it's not a spin, but that's how you want to look at it, for showcasing the things that make you unique. I think more and more people do take unconventional paths where they are right now, and that's good. We should be celebrating how that makes you different and that you have different skill sets from others who may have taken a straighter path. So hopefully that's helpful, but we included that in case it's good to just kind of think of it from a different point of view. Okay. Ellen, if you scroll up, can you find the handout in the chat? If not, then I'll provide it at the end just to make sure. It seems like whenever I enter anything in chat, it kicks me out of my notes view and I have to do that restart. So I don't want to do that. But the second handout is the overview on LinkedIn that we're going to go over together. And it's really just an at-home version of it.
Question.
Yes, Sarah.
Writing this, and I'm crafting it primarily for my acting business. But of course, you were talking about LinkedIn, and well, guess what? LinkedIn, I also work for Microsoft, and if I'm gonna craft a statement like this, there are pieces of it that cross over because I'm a communications manager, and so I think of that as being a storyteller, and that certainly applies to both fields, right? But what I might want to say to get a casting director to cast me would be pretty different from what I'd want a CVP at Microsoft to think about me to hire me to do communications for them, let's say. So when you're thinking about something like that, do you recommend just crafting for one and deciding that that platform is just, for that one purpose, or do you try and merge it somehow? How do you think about that?
Think about the different platforms and the different audiences for those platforms. So it's not that you need to completely separate the two, important roles in your life, which is acting and communications. It's thinking about, yes, you're totally right with hitting on the storytelling aspect. That is in both. And that's why you should feel free to have both mentioned in your LinkedIn bio. LinkedIn bio is going to be primarily seen, thinking about those audiences, by people that are considering you for professional, non-acting, not saying that acting isn't professional, but you understand what I mean, about those Microsoft roles, about the communications roles, about the, big business roles. They're going to be reaching you out to on LinkedIn. You should mention that you also do acting, and you should feel free to weave that in as part of your story. But you should be sending them links to either a personal website or anywhere that you want to more freely promote the acting side. So whether that's Instagram, Facebook, I would recommend website being the best way to kind of combine all of, the worlds together, but, doing that as a portfolio type of a page. But you never want to feel like you need to hide aspects from anybody else. It's just thinking about who is going to be accessing it and making sure that you're highlighting the most important bits for those people on the most appropriate platform. All right, what's the best way to talk about a past that dealt with an abusive relationship, and how that has directed your focus on creating a platform and production line to provide a living wage to single mothers? I love that, Sophia. Not the abusive relationship part. I had that myself. I mean, I understand where you come from in the same way that, in the pieces that overlap from my own experiences. I think that that is a wonderful origin story for how that platform came about. I think that it's an important piece of that story. I think that it shouldn't be the primary focus. I think that that's something where you say, hey, keeping it fewer details, just saying, born out of personal experiences with an abusive relationship, I did this. And that should be empowering. It should be about coming through, the fire on the other side, triumphant, not about the fire as much. Does that make sense? But yeah, and that's wonderful. You want to challenge the hush part of women's backgrounds who've dealt with abuse. And this is where it can be a little difficult sometimes, because there is that natural inclination to try and quiet it. And I mean, I don't post it on my things, but that's because it's not relevant to the outer facing, things that outer part of my business as much, but it should be talked about. The way that I would frame that is I would have a mention of it in the LinkedIn bios or on the website as part of the origin of the platform. And then maybe dive into more thought leadership articles, diving into, the specifics of, statistics, data-driven reasons why, why the society and why some of these topics are dealt with the way that they are, and challenge them that way. So it's easy for people who want to explore and want to be allies to that. It's easy for them to find that content and to know how they can participate and how they can challenge those norms as well and make them not the norm, but without coming across as too aggressive or harsh on the subject, or you don't want to force messages of any sort down people's throats. That's not the way to do it. So I think just being open and honest, and then thought leadership articles or video series on that would be my recommendation. I hope that's helpful. It's a tough subject. It is a really, really tricky, tough subject to integrate in a tactful but challenging way. So that's just kind of dancing a fine line there of knowing when too much is too much and when it's going to be taken the right way and in a helpful way. So I hope that was helpful. All right, we're going to move on for this, but hopefully you guys found this exercise helpful. I want you to keep thinking about this. This is going to change over the course of your career, but knowing how to answer these and how to answer these questions combined in a really short and easy way is going to be really beneficial. All right, now we're going to go through a little bit of a quick fire, how to amplify your brand slide series. This is just some really quick, easy tactics to help you actually grow your network and your brand in person and online. So first, just remember that your brand is an experience. Every interaction with you is an opportunity to demonstrate your value and your trustworthiness. I try to approach every interaction that I have with people, whether it's on email or like this, or, in person when we're starting to do it a little bit again, is I have the ability to improve their day, have zero effect on their day, or have a negative effect on their day. And obviously I'm always trying to go for that positive effect. It's having that positive attitude can go a really long way to making sure that people are always having a positive experience when they do interact with you. There's also a lot of things that you can do internally at your organization, depending on the size and where if you are in a larger organization, usually too, there's more of these things. Some of these, like keeping track of your accomplishments and recognizing others, that's really easy for you to do anywhere, on social, on LinkedIn. Keeping track of your own so that you're not just updating your LinkedIn experience section when you're, looking for a job, but keeping it updated as you go along to help make sure that you don't forget some of the cool things that you've done. And then highlighting others, showcasing the cool things that other people have done. We'll be more likely to return the favor, but it also it makes us all feel good when we can celebrate each other. Also volunteering to do things, either speaking in a meeting on a topic or just volunteering for new projects and responsibilities. And, looking internally for that further guidance, mentorship, cultivating a good, strong relationship with your manager. Obviously, not every org, not every managerial relationship is that possible, but whenever possible, it is a good thing to try and do. And then having an impactful intro. So we've smushed everything down into a short, concise purpose statement. Now we're going to chop it away and make it even smaller for an impactful intro. So this is just a short, memorable version of your professional purpose that you can use when you're introducing yourself. And the important thing to think about here is that if you're, again, especially once we start to do like conferences and things in person again, if you just introduce yourself with your title, if I say, hey, I'm Jenn Spicer, I'm a personal branding program manager, people are going to go, cool. And then the conversation's done. So having just a little short thing to pique people's interest can start that conversation going. Okay, how do you do that? What does that mean? Why would anybody want to hire you for that? And I tell them like this. Here's all the, user cases of businesses doing really well because they had visible leadership. So yeah, thinking about that. And then just taking a moment to really analyze your own communication style, especially in email, especially, when we're more virtual, more remote than we've ever been. Communication is really important. So just, remember how, are you CCing people when you should? Are you making it easy for people to respond? I've started like bolding asks in group emails to make it really easy for them to like, hey, that's what the action item that I need from you. So it makes it really easy for them to respond. And then, using Grammarly or something to read your emails back aloud. I think I have it in somewhere else in here, but I'm a very big proponent of GSP, checking out your grammar, spelling, punctuation, just keeping it, obviously we're not always talking and writing formally, but it's good to at least be aware of that and, knocking out easy mistakes. And then making your out of office more impactful. Instead of just saying, hey, out of office, contact so-and-so, tell us what you're doing. Again, this is going to be more fun when we can do like in-person conferences or something, but here is an example of our founder, what he did for one conference that he was participating in. He linked to it. He threw the hashtag in there so that you could follow him and like see all the cool stuff he was seeing, while still giving the important info about who to contact, in an emergency. So it's memorable, it's more fun that way, and it tells people that, you can't reach me because I'm doing this really cool thing right now. Maybe that's useful for you too. And staying informed is really important. This is something that I think tends to fall off of our list a lot when we're thinking about, what we have to do, because we all have really long days, so much to do, but taking 10 minutes every morning to review, articles that have been published or finding good publications that are relevant to what you do. And then actually taking that time every day or every couple of days to check in and see what's been published about, topics that are relevant for you and that will be relevant for your audiences. Because it's not only going to help you stay informed, it's going to help you give you content that you can share with them. So if you're reading something and if I see something, it's like, hey, here's 10 personal branding tips to help you advance in your career. And if I agree with all of them and I think it's great advice, I'm going to share it to my audiences and be like, hey, check out these ones. I always forget about number 4, but it really is so important. And it's providing something that's valuable to your audiences that is still related to what you do. And then paying attention to what social platforms you're on. So this is kind of like I was talking about with Sarah before, thinking about, you're gonna modify what you're doing depending on what social channel you're on. If it's LinkedIn, it's gonna stay pretty much business. If it's any of the others, it's gonna be business, a little bit of personal, and Instagram and Snapchat for the more visual, and Pinterest for the visual and the younger crowds. Twitter, I recommend to most people because it's just a huge platform. So there's a lot of really great interaction that can happen there. Facebook, it's up to you. You know, on Facebook and Instagram, we get a lot of people who are like, I'm keeping it locked down. That's for friends and family only. And that's totally fine. I very, very strongly believe in quality over quantity. If you are only doing, you know, these tactics and these recommendations of sharing regularly and posting regularly on one channel, that's great. It's better than being mediocre on all of them. You know, that's not beneficial to you. So it's better to start with one and grow from there as your ability, you know, happens. So. And what should you be sharing? So making sure that everything that you're sharing and everything that you're really doing online, it should be authentic. Don't, you know, people can read inauthenticity. It's not going to build credibility or trust with the people that are following you. You want to be authentic. You want to be yourself. You want it to be useful and relevant to your audiences. And that's sometimes where people get tripped up a little bit. Making sure, doing that audience check, is it actually helpful to them? Is it valuable to them? Or am I just talking to talk? Because that's not helping anybody. And then is it actionable? Usually if you're sharing an article or something, the action item is, hey, go read this article because it's going to be valuable to you. But if you're just writing a post that's kind of separate from that, what do you want them to do, you know, at the end of it? Is it go register for something? Is it contact you for something? What do you want them to get out of that? If you don't want them to do anything about, you know, after reading your post, then maybe it's not useful and relevant. Just making sure that it is all of those things, or at least 3 of them. You know, not always going to hit on all of them. And like I mentioned before, creating a social media balance is really important. LinkedIn is going to stay pretty professional, but on the others, you should have a little bit of your personal life sneaking in there. And how that comes out and how much you're willing and comfortable to share is completely up to you. The point of it is to show that we are all people and people connect with people. So be a people, you know, show that you are a lot more than just the stiff, perfect, polished, you know, nice LinkedIn profile. Let a little personality and let yourself shine through a little bit. And have a plan. This kind of goes hand in hand with staying informed. Know what you want to do. Figure out a publication cadence, you know, that is comfortable for you. We usually recommend you for LinkedIn, maybe 3 to 5 times a week. 5 times a week is a lot. Maybe 3 times a week, maybe 1 time a week. But have a plan that is actually possible for you to implement, and that will go a really long way towards, again, just having it written down helps a lot towards actually doing it and staying on top of it. And here's another one. We were talking about websites earlier. It is a good idea to own your own name as a website, as a domain, if you're ever interested in possibly like doing speaking or writing events. That's usually where I recommend it, because that's a really good house for lots of different things to sit in. You know, you're going to link to all your social channels there, but it's kind of just a nice little home base when LinkedIn doesn't work, ideally, as that home base. And again, if you've got lots of, you know, writing, speaking events like Mel does, he's got a section on writing, he's got a section on speaking, and then a section on what he does with the agency. So it can be a really useful tool, even if you're not ready to use it right away, just having it so that you have it in case, you know, before somebody more famous with your name picks it up. All right, now we're going to talk about creating a delightful LinkedIn profile. I'm going to go through with this one a little bit quick because this is all listed in that handout that I gave you and that we dropped in the chat. And it looks like people have access to it now. LinkedIn has over 722 million members in more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. At one time, it was just that site that you updated when you were job hunting, but it's really a living, thriving community of professionals now, using it not just when you're job searching, but we're using it to network, to learn, to grow, to share experiences, to, you know, highlight the cool stuff other people are doing and, you know, share knowledge. And here are our 7 steps that we're going to go through just to do kind of a quick check of your own LinkedIn profile. So first, is your photo professional? Your profile is 14 times more likely to be viewed if you have a professional photo. So make sure it's like like the, lady smiling up there. Smiling is a great thing to do. It does build credibility and trust with people that are looking at you. So don't, do the dour, I'm so serious in my business suit and tie look. Like, do smile, show a little personality. Make sure that people can actually see your photo and that, it's a good high quality image and that you're not smoking or drinking or anything like that in it. Just LinkedIn, And while you're updating that LinkedIn photo, you can update the actual file name with your name and then any important keywords, and that will help. And you can do this anywhere, anytime that you use an image. This will help the SEO for that image, that when you search for yourself or somebody else searches for you, that's what they're seeing. It helps people recognize you across platforms if it's really easy for them to search and find your name. The number 2, writing an attention-grabbing headline. This will automatically default to just your current title, but there's a lot of opportunity to add a little bit more info about you and what's important to you in that space. They used to have a limit on it, but they recently opened it up. I would still not recommend going over 2 lines. So keeping it still kind of short, but like you can see with Ashley, she's got her role in there. She's got that first, because when you do the search for her, you want it to pop up first because that is the most important bit. But like, she's also a mom to 2 fierce girls, and I have met those girls. They were very fierce. That's a very fair, perfectly real statement. And she's an advocate for public schools. That's important to her. And it's nice to know that, a little bit of extra info about people. Next, crafting a compelling summary. This is an example of one of our personal branding client summaries that we drafted for them. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. So the best way to think about this, because you have a lot of room to write this, we still recommend that you keep it to like 2,000 characters or less, which is still several paragraphs. But we would recommend starting out with that purpose statement. I'm Jenn Spines. I'm a personal branding program manager at Delightful Communications, and purpose statement. And then expand on those in a few paragraphs and then summarize it at the end, maybe with your, my overall goal is to help others, lead really fulfilling, happy lives and, really great careers, something like that, but going through a little bit more detail about that statement to give people a little bit more context. And again, this takes a little bit of time to write, but it's worthwhile, and it's something that would only need to get tweaked every once in a while, for quite a while until you make bigger career changes. And then detail your work experience. This is where I tried to put a link in and it didn't let me. So I'm going to try it at the very end when we're done with the PowerPoint. I'm going to put a link in. I wrote an article on how to do this. It's 7 more steps, but it's 7 steps to update your LinkedIn experience section. And it walks you through this. So this process of thinking of, not thinking about responsibilities, but thinking about the actual impact of what you've had when you used that skill. It's, especially if you can add data in there, that's really powerful, information for somebody to know. So yeah, this is one of the biggest pains in the butts for updating, but it's really, really worth it. And this is something that once you've got it really nice and solid, you're just adding to it maybe every quarter of new accomplishments that you've done, new things that you want to make sure are mentioned in there. And then you don't have to worry about spending hours and hours and hours next time you're job searching, because it's just going to be updated all the time. And again, that's really useful for somebody that's doing a little bit more extra digging in looking into you. And the next, add skills, endorsements, and recommendations. And just these kind of get, because they're farther down, so people sometimes don't take the time to really look through these. For the skills and getting them endorsed, you can actually order skills how you want them, because there's going to be a few that are kind of showcased at the top, and then the rest are in more of a see more type of a tab. So take a couple minutes, go in and order them how you want them to be ordered. Make sure that the most important things, especially things that are maybe at your next career level, you want to make sure that you're, being considered for, make sure that those are at the top so that they're really easily visible. And then for both endorsements and recommendations, giving them to other people is one of the best ways to then receive them on the same side. So, because you're putting in the time to give them to somebody else, just be really open and honest. Hey, I'm updating my profile. Would you mind writing me a recommendation? you know, and it is not unreasonable for you to also offer to write it for them if that's something that they would prefer. Obviously, they would see it and they would get final say because they're the ones posting it. But that can be a really easy way of making sure that, you know, if it's somebody that you trust and that does believe in everything that you're, you know, putting in there, it can make it an easy lift for them if that is something that they're willing to do. And then at the very end of our profiles are volunteer experiences and causes. And this is a nice to have thing. This is not a must have, but it's, if you've been doing things with other organizations, it's just another way of kind of showing a little bit more of your personal side and, you know, the things that are important to you, especially on such a, you know, professional network. It can be really, really good. And if you're earlier in career, this can be a good way of showing a lot of experience if you don't have a lot of professional experience yet. And then slides 7 and 8, or these next two slides are a little bit boring. These are just our recommended security and privacy settings. These are all in that handout. Every time I go to take screenshots, they change the UI immediately afterwards. So some of the wording might be slightly different, but you should be able to still find these settings pretty easily. And these are just our recommendations. The main thing that I want to show you is on the next page. If you're in the edit profile settings, you can, first of all, you can update your URL so that you're taking away the numbers and the ones that it automatically defaults you to. So you see, I use Spicer Jenn because there's actually quite a few Jenn Spicers on all social channels. So I have this consistent across my networks on Twitter and on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I'm Spicer Jenn on all of them. It's just another way for somebody who's maybe not sure and not looking at the profile photo that's the exact same on every channel. If they're not looking at my photo, they know from the email that, hey, this is the same person on all of them. And then the other one that I want to point out is this edit visibility, making sure that the profile is public, but then also down here at some point, LinkedIn changed this and auto defaulted everybody to having a hidden profile photo. So you'll see your photo not connected with you yet, might not. And that makes a difference when you're writing in comments on somebody's posts, something like that. You want to make sure that they can actually see your face because that's going to, again, draw interest. Maybe they go check out your profile and find out that they actually need your services. So last, we're going to look up making an actual plan. Okay, Sophia, I'm going to come back to your question because that's a good one. I want to make sure that we give you a chance because we're running out of time. So making a plan, this is in your exercise book. And again, I'm going to leave you to kind of fill this one out as we continue chatting because I want to get to some of your questions, but I want you to write down just what you want to do next. So even if it's as simple as I want to go through and make sure that my LinkedIn is updated, or I want to take some time tonight and finish up my purpose statement. These are all great plans. Don't try and tackle everything all at once. Start thinking about, you know, a longer plan. If you're taking lots of little baby steps, you're making really good, steady progress. You know, when you look down a couple weeks out, you just keep that continual improvement and you'll get there. So write down your goal, be specific, make sure it's measurable, even if it's just a done or not done, and make sure that it's attainable. Be realistic. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Make sure that you understand what results you want out of it. You know, I want to have a cleaned up LinkedIn profile. I want to have a profile that attracts, you know, recruiters for this role that I want. And give yourself a timeline on when you'd like to accomplish it. And last, as Jenny Ramadi says, growth and comfort do not coexist. So this can take you out of your comfort zone. And that's okay. It still takes me out of my comfort zone. And I've been doing this for years, and that's okay. Then shameless plug for Mel's wonderful book. Again, this is our founder. He wrote this personal branding book. It is super cheap on Amazon. It's less than an hour read, and it basically goes over a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, but in a little bit more detail. So if you want more info, I highly recommend it. It is actually a really legitimately good book. I'm not trying to like hawk that quote to you. Like, it is a good, really good resource. So I'm going to stop sharing because I want to go through that chat, and I want to also drop the link to that, to my article for you guys. So Sophia had said, what is the purpose or benefit of LinkedIn to someone who wants to own their own business? That is a great question. And I would primarily say that it's how you attract, it can be how you attract business partners. We have a lot of people that are looking for, a lot of the people that I work with are looking for investors, for new business partners, or just to actually attract business. And that is, LinkedIn is a great resource for that. So part of it will depend on if you're looking more for B2B or direct to consumer. Facebook can actually be a really, really good resource for that as well. So again, it's thinking about your audiences for that business. Who is your customer? Who is your client? Where are they? That's where you should be. And that's also then, you know, the types of messaging that you should be sharing with them. You know, why should they come to you? Why should they listen to you? Why should they hire you? That is a place for you to, you know, have it live. It also builds credibility because it is a business resource. So hopefully that made sense. Let me grab this URL. Shameless plug for my own article because it's a really good article. It's a pain to write this experience section. It really, really is. So I wrote this actually primarily for my personal branding clients. And now I'm just like, no, I'm tired of writing out novels in an email to tell you how to do this. Here's a guide. It's really good. So is there anything that that you guys have any questions about? You know, we went over a lot today. We have the benefit of a nice little small group. So, you know, I don't have a 5 o'clock meeting. If you guys have a couple more questions or just a couple more minutes, I'm happy to answer them. So I'll open up the floor. Sarah's good. Sophia's forced to be quiet, which I'm sorry. And Ellen, it looks like you're good as well. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you, Lindy, for having me. I've really enjoyed, I love your guys' group. I love getting to come and give these talks. I hope it was really beneficial. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Spicer Jen, easy to find. You guys have a wonderful evening, rest of your day, and wonderful rest of your week.
Yes, thank you so much, Jen. This was wonderful. This is one that I took a lot of notes. I'm going to be watching it again at some point. I know it will really benefit our scholars as well and everyone in the WWIN community. So thank you for being here. And to all of you, thanks for joining us. And you'll receive a follow-up email tomorrow with the link to the recording, as well as a short survey. We would love your feedback on this and on this workshop, and if you have any ideas for future topics as well. So thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.